Mark Sanchez, Fox NFL analyst, former quarterback. He was on the call, the Giants and the Raiders yesterday in Las Vegas, joining us on the program. What did you expect out of that game going into it?
That was a wild one. Hello. Good morning, Dan.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Danette. Um, so we get the privilege when you call a game, you go in on a Friday, you watch Friday practice, and then you get to interact with some of the players and the coaches. And there was an energy, a juice around the building. There was something you could feel, and you didn't quite know what it was. So I attributed it to, the changeover and turnover that happened during the week with the head coach, GM, and all that. But you're like, okay, well, how long is this going to last? And what does this actually mean? Because a lot of energy is great, but just energy going in all different directions that isn't focused on executing on the field doesn't really do it. Not at this level. In college, you can get away with more of that. In high school, for sure, it's all momentum and you figure it out. But at this level, you're like, okay, what's that going to get me? And I figured right after the first quarter, that's where I'm going to see what this Raiders team is all about. And it's still only one game. But this kid, Aiden O'Connell, I mean, they gave him plenty of time. Number one, I think the play sequencing by Bo Hardigree was perfect. I think they still struggled, and nobody said anything. They still struggled getting the ball to Devontae Adams. He barely had an impact on the game, if any at all, really. They threw him a couple quick throws or whatever, but he wasn't a major factor. Wink Martindale and the Giants took him completely out of the game. The problem was, they lose Leonard Williams the week before in a trade, and Josh Jacobs went off. I mean, he finally hit the century mark and goes over 100 yards. He ends up taking a loss, so I think he ends up with just shy of 100 yards. But that was by far his best output. At one point, him and Saquon were averaging like 7 yards a carry. I'm like, dude, just snap him the ball. Whatever you got to do, get it to number 8. This guy's, unlocking everything you need in your offense and making it easy, by the way, on your rookie quarterback from Purdue that is making his second start. And in his first start, it was rough. So whatever you got to do, and Bo Hardigree knew it and felt it. And then the defense comes up with 2 turnovers. Daniel Jones goes down. And then, the route was on. And it was it breaks your heart for Daniel Jones. But you see this Raider team, and you see all the clips from last night. These guys are like smoking cigars in there like they just won the Super Bowl. It's like, whoa, pump the brakes a little bit. But I can understand. Obviously, that speaks to, this newfound, almost like a weight was lifted off their shoulders. And it's, you never like to see it with coaching change and all that. But that's the way it goes. And the guys obviously responded. And how about Antonio Pierce? Like, LA guy, just total Raiders Kings. Like, I just picture him in the 80s and 90s growing up with that Raiders starter jacket,
Sure.
Like the Compton hat, bumping Dre on his, speakers. Like that's who he is. And it was like perfect for him. And, the post-game interview, like just yelling Raiders, like you could tell they're just fired up and they haven't had that excitement in a long time. So it's fun to watch.
If you're the Giants, are you looking at moving on from Daniel Jones?
Well, I think they got to figure out what's going on with the knee. It sounds like ACL. And if that's the case, we're past the deadline. It's like, what are we going to do to try and salvage the season? How soon is Tyrod Taylor back, which is 3 more games? Are we rolling with Tommy DeVito? And then long-term, what's the plan there? So I'm not totally sure on the contract structure. I know, it was a big number, and
I think next year,
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this year and next year, I think they're locked into that.
So, I wouldn't be shocked if they, try and build up the team around him, but the team that they're building up around him has to be available. Okay. They haven't had their bookend tackles for a better part of the season, or at least playing together. They've had just as many offensive line combinations show up, quarterbacks in and out. Darren Waller was supposed to show up and help that tight end position. He's been in and out of the lineup. Bellinger, the other tight end from San Diego State, he's been in and out of the lineup. It's like, sure, does Daniel Jones need to protect the ball and not, force it at certain times when everything looks bad? Yes, 100%, and he's owned that. But, come on, man, you got to help the guy out. Him, Saquon, Saquon was going off yesterday too, but you're down 20-something points at halftime. It's hard to run the ball. Yeah. It's hard to just turn around and hand the ball off. There's not enough time. And so, I feel for the guys with the Giants, and the defense is really starting to pick it up these last couple of weeks, generating turnovers and all that. And but once you lose your guy like that, that's makes life tough.
Your alma mater fired the defensive coach, Alex Grinch. And
We're just doom and gloom today, man.
yeah, I know. But I'm wondering about this, though. You can fire the defensive coordinator. You still have the same talent there. Is this a question of the scheme of the defensive coordinator, or is this about the players that Lincoln Riley brought in?
I mean, I think there's blame to go around just like anything. I think, and this is what you sign up for as a coach at this kind of level. You're going to get scrutiny. And if things aren't going right at a program like this, then people are going to want to change. And it's unfortunate. That's the way it works. So is it players? Is it scheme? And those are some questions that they're going to have to answer. I can see, I mean, we definitely could use some help up front. I think on both sides. I think that's where our next step will be, in my opinion, is snagging some of those big dudes that end up going to Georgia, that end up going to Bama, those kind of big guys. I mean, you got to control the line of scrimmage, and right now, we're getting moved around and not moving enough. So it's difficult. It's hard to play complimentary ball like that when, I mean, it's a 50-point shootout every week.
Yeah.
And I've never been a part of, not a spread offense like that air raid attack, Mike Leach kind of stuff. But I mean, you're scoring fast. Your defense is on the field a lot. It feels like every game's like 50-49. I know a couple of them have been that way, but I mean, for me as an offensive guy, like if I was calling the plays, I might have 10 heart attacks every game. Like I can't. Whoa, like, hey, we got to get a stop, man. We got to get a turnover. We got to do something. But I got to dial up, 100 touchdown passes a year. Like, good Lord, that's a lot of work. So I just, it's a different style of football. And it's more of this new age style because it's so popular in high school. It's easy to teach, easy to coach, easier to understand for a lot of these players. And that's why, the transition period, when you get some of these guys from college, they go to the NFL, like trying to get them to figure out this new league is a little different, but the league changing with it as well. So, gosh, back to this defense. Sorry, that was a long word salad answer, but yeah, some had to change, and it's unfortunate when it goes down like that. But bottom line is these players got to execute, and you got to put them in the right positions to execute.
Mark Sanchez, Fox NFL analyst. How is C.J. Stroud making it look so easy?
Jeez, I mean, this kid looks unbelievable. I'm like hoping we get a Houston game coming up. We haven't had much of him, or like when you watch games and study for teams, there hasn't been a ton of Houston crossover tape for whatever reason, and it happens that way. But these highlights you're seeing, I mean, this is like, he looks so calm and so comfortable, and they're not asking him to do anything like that he's uncomfortable with. They're bringing him along every week, right? And now he's to the point where, you're looking at some of his stat lines, you're like, geez, guys are chucking it around the yard, man, with a guy who's barely done this. So clearly he's got the confidence. Clearly they're bringing him up the right way and educating him along the way and giving him a little more, kind of spoon feeding him early, let the run game go, some easy completions. He's got veteran guys like Robert Woods. I can't tell you how important those types of players are, especially in the slot. Having Dalton Schultz that they got from Dallas, sharp kid, Stanford kid, I want to say, but like route running ability and giving quarterbacks opportunities to throw to open players. So not every throw is contested. Not every throw has a chance to get tipped, intercepted. Boom, there goes your confidence a little bit. These guys are you don't know. It's hard for me to say because I'm not listening on the headset. But like that whole operation, you get down to the 6-yard line, it's like a calamity of errors. They had a penalty, a false start, like
a sack.
Take a sack. The sack was a bad sack. Number one, it's a 4-man rush. I understand those are really good pass rushers. But I mean, Dak barely hit his back foot, got one look at something, and then boom, he had to move. I'd prefer if he moved up in the pocket. And my only question on that particular play was the week before he hit Ferguson against the Rams down the seam, right down the middle, and threw it on the top shelf, like right on the top of his helmet. In that situation, you have no timeouts. There's like 20-something seconds left. You're running about maybe 3 to 4 plays, depending on how fast you can do it. And if you're inbounds or out of bounds, whatever, incomplete, complete, that matters. But that was a play he showed me, and it's 1st and 10. Now's your time to take a shot. Like, you got a chance. You're just dropping them in the end zone, trying to figure it out. And he had him one-on-one. And in those situations, bottom line, like if you're CJ Stroud in a situation like that, it's where's Schultz, where's Woods? If you're Dak, it's where's CeeDee Lamb and where's Ferguson? Those have been your best targets. Get the ball to those guys. Bottom line is, at the end of the game, it's Johnny's and Joe's, not the X's and O's. Find your ballers, get them the ball. That's really what it is. So I think the Eagles winning that game, I thought was huge for them, and they're just really starting to separate themselves, especially with that Giants loss. They're owning that NFC East, maybe the first repeat champs in I don't know how many years. So that'd be huge.
What do you have this weekend?
We go Commanders at Seahawks.
Okay. How many times?
But wait, how about the roughing the passer? Because Vilma was on that call. I'm excited to watch that game. I know it's Commanders Patriots, but the roughing the passer on Mac Jones.
I watched it, and then Paulie goes, "Yeah, roughing the passer was called." I go, "How?" He tried not to land on him.
I'll protect quarterbacks all day long. Okay, you need those guys on the field to score points and make it all work, and I get that. I'm a proponent of that. But come on, man. He didn't even land on it. He barely hit him, knocked him down, and then did exactly what they said. He rolled off and didn't push off of him on the ground. And I mean, that was as clean as you could see. Vilma was on the call, and I saw one of the clips of it. I think he does an excellent job, though, by the way, for Fox. But I get a good defensive perspective when I hear him. Mark Schlereth, I get a good offensive line perspective, So sometimes when I have those crossover games, I love watching those guys. But Vilma was like, wait a second. And he came from, he's older than me. So he's like that old school, take the quarterback's head off and worry about it later. So that was bad.
They should let these quarterbacks today watch highlights from the 60s and 70s and understand what roughing the passer was. Because
well, remember the wasn't it a segment on ESPN? Like you got jacked up or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Those were punt returners and guys catching like a little bubble screen and just flatten them. I mean, they got hammered. And so I don't know.
I think it's called You Got Fined. That's the new segment on ESPN. Is You Got Fined for that.
With the little meter and
how much it's going to cost you there.
Hey, we're on to something here.
Yeah.
This is good.
Yeah. Safe travels. Play nice with Pete Carroll.
You, buddy. Always.
You wouldn't criticize
Don't
him.
Start anything. Don't start anything. Why do you always do?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't mean to. I just thought, you know what? Are you going to be overly nice to Pete on the broadcast as opposed to have somebody read into it that?
No, I've gotten on him before with some of the silly penalty. Week 1 with DK Metcalf and the silly penalty he had towards the end of the game when I said that's not a Coach Carroll deal. He's going to be upset about that. They got to take a good look in the mirror, and they can't do that. They can't afford whatever. So I've been critical of him, and
all right.
You got to play it straight. You can't have favorites. I'm always, to a fault, rooting for the quarterbacks and rooting for the offense, but I do appreciate good defensive plays and good coaching and stuff. So
what's the
do my best, man.
What's the commitment to the hair? What are we going with?
I'm not 100% totally sure. Maybe it's our next poll question, and then we just decide what the new hairdo is. Do we shave it, go mohawk, nice high top fade, dark Caesar? Like, where are we going with it?
What does your wife want?
She's down with it. She's
she
cool.
is? Little flip, little curl?
Little.
It would look good if you're playing now out of the helmet. Coming out of the back of your helmet? Yeah, okay.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
What I saw Wink Martindale before the game. He goes, "Hey, look at that flow! You got the Tennessee mud flap back there." Nice,
Tennessee
nice.
mud flap. Nice.
I never heard that.
Your mullet. Safe travels. Good to talk to you as always. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it, guys. We'll talk soon.
That's Mark Sanchez, former NFL quarterback, now working for Fox. He's got Seattle and the Commanders.